Welcome, 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 welcome everyone today to the admin panel, real talk from administrators. I'm so excited today. We're going to jump right in. I'm going to get through all this opening stuff pretty quickly because I really want to leave all the rest of the time to the panel and your questions. So of course, we're going to have that sign in only for the people who are watching this live. If you're watching this from YouTube, you do not have to sign in. But for those people that are watching this live, you do have a sign in. If you're like, what you talking about? That's okay. We can deal with this at the end, but you can sign in at any time during the session. So my name is Desiree Alexander. I am the founder, CEO of Educator Alexander Consulting. Also work for a nonprofit in Louisiana called APEL. So this is my contact information. If you ever need to contact me for any questions or just anything really, this is it. So you can take a picture of this. I know most of you are repeaters. You're like, Desiree, we know you, we got it. But we may have some newbies on here. So you can take a picture of this, but I'm going to email you at the end if you registered or if you sign in. So you'll have my contact information. So that should have been long enough for you to snap that photo if you want to get that picture. So we do have some upcoming free webinars. Actually, we have two that's going to be added to this. So we have Fun with Autocrat, which is if you want someone to fill out a Google form and it automatically send them like a certificate or anything like that, that's Autocrat. Backed by popular demand is Classroom Management and Beyond in July, and I'll be teaching that one. And then we have templates for teachers in September. But guys, we also have one about dealing with ESL, ELL during these times, how to deal with parents and deal with our students and make sure that we are supporting them. We have that coming up on May 30th. I just got it finalized with our teacher. And we also have one about apps, creating your own apps in for the classroom or beyond. And that's going to be coming up, I think that's May 30th. Another one is July 6th, something like that. But watch out for my website. You see register at edalex.net/events. You can always register for those. And we also have two free conferences coming up that I'm involved in. One is Virtual Camp Apple. You do not have to be a member of Apple to win prizes and learn and all that good stuff. You can register again at edalex.net/events. And then we have Ed Change Global back again. We've been going strong since 2015. And that is a 24-hour global international teaching conference. And it is crazy and I love it. And we're going to be doing that again. So both of these are completely free. So definitely register for that. And we're going to hop on in, guys. This is real talk from education administrators. I wasn't sure if I wanted to say educational leaders, education administrators, but it is what it is, So we're gonna get some real talk from them. We don't want any Pollyanna answers. We want those real answers. And that's what we're gonna get today. I made sure that the panel were people that I respected, number one, and were people that I knew would give you the real answer, but not, not like super Debbie Downers, those people that you want to stay away from. But we'll give you the real talk and the real answers. And that's what we're going to do today. So what I'm going to do at this point is I'm going to actually have them introduce themselves, and I'm going to bring up the video panel so you can see. I'm going to leave this up for just a second. I'm going to put this again at the end. But if you wanted their email addresses, this is the perfect slide for that. So if you want to take a picture of it, because you never know, like you may connect with Clement or Marquis or Anna or Sarah or Anitra, you may connect with them and say, I really want to send that person an email and ask them blah, 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 right? So you may want to take a picture of this. I will put it up at the end, right? But I'm going to leave this up just for a second. And while I'm leaving that up, I'm going to bring up my video panel. And let's see what we have in the chat. We have Tennessee represented. You are so awesome, Desiree. Thank you, Inky. I'll pay you later, Inky. Okay, so let me bring up my video panel. Yay! So you should be able to see the wonderful panel in person live. So I am going to kind of shut my mouth. I know some of you are like, yay, you be quiet and stop being rude. I'm going to shut my mouth and I'm going to let them introduce themselves. And I'm going to mute myself and we'll just introduce ourselves according to our slides.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Clement Alexander. I'm the proud principal of Daniel Webster Elementary School in the Dallas Independent School District. This is my 20th year in education, 12th year as an administrator. 2 of those years was as a program development specialist, 3 as an assistant principal, and I've been a principal for the last, 7 years. Wow. 6 of those being at the same school, Daniel Webster Elementary School. And we're doing some great work in Dallas and really proud of it. And I'm happy to be here this morning to share any thoughts and insights to anybody who needs information.
Well, good morning, good morning, good morning. My name is Marquis McLean. I am the proud patriot assistant principal of Lakeview Centennial High School. We are LC, and I have been in education for, this is my 23rd year. Started out as a teacher aide in Houston, Texas at Foster Elementary School. Moved to the Dallas area to go to graduate school, and I actually taught at an all-girls school in Dallas, the Irma Lummer Ron-Held Young Women's Leadership School. I was there for 5 years in Dallas ISD, and since 2012, I have been a proud patriot. I bleed blue and my bones are gold. And so, yeah, I'm very, very excited to be here. There's all my contact information. Feel free to reach out, and hopefully I can help somebody out today. And my one phrase of advice is lead where you are.
Good morning. I'm Anna Tarver. I am the principal at Gilbert School in Franklin Parish, Louisiana. This is my 9th year in education and my 4th year as principal. As you can see, I was honored to be the 2017 Louisiana Middle School Teacher of the Year. And right in the whole process of doing all that, I was assigned the principalship at my school. I'm very excited to be here to share any of my personal experiences or advice that I can give to anyone that is interested in becoming an administrator or is currently an administrator and just needs to reach out to a fellow admin.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Sarah Valasek, and I am both a teacher and a principal in Millard Public Schools in Omaha, Nebraska. This is my 16th year in education. The majority of my career so far has been a teacher leader. Currently, I am a summer school principal for the last 2 years. I will graduate with my doctorate in education in 2024. And today I hope that I can inspire in all of you who are watching hope and growth and leadership in the position that you find yourself right now. Leadership is something that can be echoed in any type of administrative role, but also in teacher leadership. And for all of you who are in college and studying to be teachers, feel free to ask any questions about how to get into leadership roles and how to pursue your dream and your path.
Good morning. My name is Anitra Walker. I am currently an assistant principal at Woodlawn High School here in East Baton Rouge Parish. I have been in the field of education for nearly 20 years. 20 years would be this coming June, actually. So I started out as an English teacher for 7th graders, moved up to high school. I was a department chair, teacher leader, and I taught gifted students for about 4 years, traditional students for the rest of my teaching career. I've been an assistant principal for 6 years. I am also an author of Challenging Common Core Lessons for English, grade 7. Which was a great book to write. And I am a great resource if you have questions about getting promoted from within. So I started out as a teacher at the school where I currently am an assistant principal. So I can give you some great insight on what that was like to be promoted from within and dealing with your coworkers.
Okay, guys, thank you guys for introducing yourselves. I am going to go ahead and start with our first question, and whoever wants to kind of start that and get this learning started. So what was the harshest reality you faced when becoming an administrator, and how did you overcome it?
I think for me, the harshest reality faced was that what I thought I saw was not exactly what it was. What I found out as a teacher in the classroom, there's a lot of things that I did not know that happened on the administrative point. And to me, once I became an administrator, I felt like I was in a glass box. A lot of things I didn't see. And when I became an administrator, I found out that there are a lot of things, a lot of paperwork, a lot of rules, regulations that I have to be aware of in order to serve the student population that I have. So for me, it was taking off the rose-colored glasses and seeing reality for what it really was.
And I'll jump in. For me, it was the difference between the classroom and going into an administrative role. That harsh reality was the speed of the day. My time was so structured when I was a teacher. Class periods, bell rings, go to the next class period. But as an administrator, it was, oh my goodness, the day was going by so fast, and I still had so many tasks that I needed to do and so many demands, and everybody was coming to me to solve a problem or a particular issue. And the time would get away, and I found myself being at work at late hours trying to get a hold of the day and trying to make sure that I was being of service and being of solving people's problems throughout that time. And it was a harsh reality that that I had to come to grips with. And so how I dealt with it was I had to calendar myself. I had to make sure that I prioritized appropriately. I had to make sure that that I stayed on the right path with things that I was assigned to do, because it was very, very overwhelming that first year as an administrator.
I'll echo those sentiments as well. My phrase for my first year as an assistant principal was things are different behind the desk. When you step into the role of assistant principal or principal, there's so many day-to-day things that go on that teachers, other individuals who are not in that role are completely unaware of. And so myself in my particular situation, I've been at Lakeview Centennial High School since 2012, and so I knew the people. I have great relationships with everybody, but when you talk about the harshest reality, I think that when you become the person who's responsible for the answers, and you become the go-to person that your team looks to when they want to solve a problem, or they come to you with an idea, or there's this new up-and-coming thing that could impact us. How are you going to tell your people that, no, we're not going to do that, and take the heat for your people, those kind of things. And so as an assistant principal, I think those are some of the few things that have been kind of the harshest reality for me. And how I face those are, one, like Clement said, definitely got to have a schedule. I myself schedule when I'm going to observe teachers. I may do pop check-ins on teachers, but they know when I'm coming. And part of that is I've set up a structure so that when I go into a classroom, the teacher knows exactly what I'm coming to look for. And so there's no surprises. But then on the flip side of that, is how are we going to grow from this? Okay, so I saw this today and this was good, but okay, next time, what are we going to be looking for? And having those coaching conversations with teachers has been a challenge because it's different. And, you know, our teachers, some of our teachers are so used to having administrators pop in for those, I got you moments kind of thing. And so when you flip that and you start to really ask them, so how do you see yourself growing this year? What do your students need to really focus on to be successful on their AP test or successful on the STAR exam, or, you know, those kind of questions. And so those are some of the things that I've done to deal with the ever-changing schedule. Every day is different as an administrator. Every single day is different.
I'd like to jump in there. I completely agree with the prioritizing and the amount of things that you are faced with and on a daily basis. I know most of you probably would agree that the phrase, "do you have just a minute?" has really become the bane of my existence, because like it never is just a minute.
Right.
That has been something that is definitely had to struggle with. Whenever anybody would come, I wasn't aware of the amount of daily, I don't want to say problems, but issues that I would face, and being able to prioritize that, because everybody that came to me felt like their issue was like the utmost importance and it should have been number one. And being able to, I had to prioritize, you know, okay, I understand you feel this is really important, but right now this is, I have to kind of put it on the back burner, you know. And so just being able to do that and feel okay about it, because there was a lot of guilt factor for me that first year that really went into telling people I can't right now, you know, or no, I can't just yet, you know, that kind of thing. So really prioritizing the demands that went along with the job, and you know, taking those just a minutes for everybody is still a challenge. Also, the really big thing, and I was assigned a principal position in July, so it was during the summer, but literally, and I'm speaking very freely here, I went in and the superintendent, you know, informed me that I had been given the job and assigned, and I was like, great. And, you know, and he said, well, you're going to start tomorrow. And I was like, okay, you know, and I said, well, do you have any suggestions on what I should focus on first? And he was like, just clean out the office. And I was like, oh, okay. So there's really no manual, and there's no amount of training and anything that really could have prepared me for those first few weeks going in and really walking into the school as an administrator, not a teacher, because it was the same school, but walking in there and having those administrator glasses and lens on and looking at, okay, what do I need to do first? Because, you know, even then I was like, oh, I got to do this and I got to do this and I got to do this. So prioritizing, you know, at the first of it was a big reality for me.
Okay.
I think the harshest reality that I faced in making the transition from being a teacher leader into a position of leadership and summer school principal is just confronting the climate and culture that already exists when coming into those roles. I think, Marquis, you might have said, you know, coming from the classroom to an administrative role, there's a lot there, whether it's our own preconceived notions of what that's going to look like, how that's going to feel and be, or the ideas that others might have that's already in place before we have even taken on that role. So really focusing on the communication piece, the collaborative shared decision-making piece, and building relationships with staff as you find yourself, as I found myself, coming from that teacher role into that leadership role was of the utmost importance. Staying transparent is one way that I overcame that reality or that issue of climate and culture, as well as just being very intentional when building those relationships with staff, addressing through fierce conversations and fierce leadership practices what our new reality is going to be and creating that new atmosphere, new climate together.
Okay, guys, so we do have some follow-up questions, and I will say I'll kind of premise this as with we came up with 5 questions. If we only get through one and take the rest of audience questions, fine with that. So y'all put those questions in there. Like we want to talk about what you want to know. So I do have about 3 follow-up questions. So one is, what are some things that you found helpful in your first year as an administrator, and what are some things that you wish you would have done differently? And if that's kind of not your question, you don't have to answer it, but what are some things you found helpful when you were green as a first year administrator, and what are some things you wish you would have done differently?
If I may, I'd like to jump in on that. I think for me, learning who does what, not only in my building, but across the district. Like we have all these acronyms that are thrown out in our district. And, you know, sometimes if you're new to the role and people are saying this, and they're having a whole conversation using all these acronyms and you're just like, what? It's like, okay. And so trying to learn those acronyms, knowing, okay, this means this and this means that, and knowing where to go for certain things. But then to back that up, knowing who you can talk to that can advise you on how to move forward or next steps to take when something that you don't know is bigger than you anticipated. I think that is kind of what I've tried to do in my first year as an assistant principal.
For me, it would have been being a better delegator. I think it's my first year as an assistant principal. I was trying to do way too much, and I didn't delegate as much as I should have. By the time I reached the principal role, I had mastered that skill. So it took some time, but being an efficient delegator, learning people's skill traits and where they have their strengths and their weaknesses, and being able to put people in a position to be successful. I wish I would have been better at that my first year.
I agree. That was one of the things looking back that I really wish I could have changed. When I took on that leadership position, I took it on literally, like I felt like everything was just my responsibility, and I knew my limits and I knew I was exceeding my limits, but I wasn't listening to that. And so definitely learning that delegation and trusting others to do these things with you involved, of course, but, you know, still trusting others to be able to handle some of the jobs that I had to kind of delegate out. And delegation is still something that I struggle with a lot, because I want to be involved in everything, and like I want to do as much as I can and be seen as much as I can in my school. But delegation is definitely something that I wish I had used better in my first year, and even my second year and third year and fourth year. Like every year I feel like it gets a little better, like I'm a little better at it, but still it's still something I'm struggling with as a leader.
Okay. So we're getting more and more questions, so I'm very excited. And we also have some questions that were submitted ahead of time. So if you're looking in the chat box like, that wasn't a question, I have some that were submitted ahead of time as well. So I have 2 that ask kind of the same, in the same vicinity of interviews and how do you get an administrator job. So what are some of the ways that to prepare for your first interview? Were there any specific questions that you remember? And what do you recommend for getting a principal position? Because I know it's competitive. So it's kind of all around that same, like, how do I get a job, people? How do I get a job, and how do I prepare for the interview?
I think
If you are
just having
seeking a position.
You can go ahead, Anna. That's fine.
Okay, you can go ahead, Anitra.
for your
I was
school?
going to say,
Just
I
making
think,
it
I just think it's a little delay. So go ahead, Anitra, and then
Yeah.
okay. I just think that having those leadership positions in the school will help. Before I became an assistant principal, as I said, I was a teacher leader, department chair, all of those things. Having that experience will assist you with, at least for interviewing as an assistant principal, since I am not a principal. But I found that having that position, those leadership positions allowed me to work with students. It allowed me to work with teachers. It allowed me to create professional development opportunities. It allowed me to have input on budgeting to a certain extent. And these are all things that you would need as a school leader. You would need to know how to complete a budget. You would need to know how to work with students with various learning levels, teachers with various degrees of teaching capabilities. So being able to have all of that in your toolbox will assist with the position. As far as interview is concerned, the questions that I could remember as an assistant principal was a lot of scenarios. They would give me scenarios of what would you do to increase your school performance score? If your department showed this percentage that may be low, what would you do? Or if you had a teacher that had been in the classroom for 30 plus years and you're a new admin, what would you do to get that teacher on your side? So just, those were just common little questions. For me, it was a lot of scenarios and what I would do. So. Anna?
My recommendation, if you are looking for a leadership position within your district or your school, is to definitely start to share that interest. My principal at the time, she knew that I was working towards my leadership certification, and that's what I wanted, was to be a school leader, and that eventually that's where I was going. And so she kind of took me under her wing and would, kind of guide me with things, and especially with any of my assignments and stuff during my courses. She helped me out a lot, and I think that was a huge factor in my transitioning from the classroom to her role whenever she retired, was that she kind of had been grooming me for that for a little bit. Also, like what you said about, taking on the different roles, once I knew that I wanted to go into school leadership, I kind of eliminated the word no from my vocabulary. Every time that they would ask me, would you go to this conference? Would you get trained in this? Would you be a teacher leader? Can you go and mentor this teacher? And can you do this? And I said yes to everything. And I did everything. Every opportunity was thrown my way. I really took it on and run with it. And I think that right there was another thing that helped me, because not only was I well known throughout my school, but also district supervisors knew my name and knew what I had been doing, because I had been participating in everything. And so I had a lot of support within the school and within the district, and even from the parents and things from the different roles that I had taken on. To answer a question about the interview, the biggest question that I was faced with, the biggest concern, because at the time I was 32 years old and I had only had 5 years of experience in the classroom, and the biggest question was my comfort level with being a supervisor, and if somebody was doing something that they shouldn't be doing, or if they were not effective in the classroom, was that going to be something that I was going to be able to handle? And I said that it was, and I haven't looked back since. So, because that was a role responsibility that I took on with the role as principal.
And can I add,
Mhm.
they're looking for a leader. Okay.
Yes.
So they're looking for somebody who is, humble but has leadership oozing from them. So coming in with a lot of positive energy, being authentic, sharing a vision of what you want to accomplish, knowing your why and your purpose, and sharing that why and purpose with confidence. You have to speak to instruction. I messed up on an interview a long time ago by speaking more from, because I was a disciplinarian at a particular campus, and I went to another campus and I spoke too much to discipline instead of speaking to instruction. And thank goodness I had a good interviewer who gave me tips and guidelines after that interview on why I didn't gain that position and what I should have done better with it. But speaking to instruction and speaking to data, knowing data and knowing how to analyze it to accomplish a goal. Not just analyze it, so what happens, but what are you going to do about it? And if you can speak to those things confidently, you have a better chance, in my opinion.
I echo those same sentiments as well. In assistant principal, like has already been shared, we're looking for people who can lead. But when you think about leading, we mean like you taking it on and making it successful. Not me having to hold your hand and guide you through every single step. If this is your first time going through something, or you need my guidance, or you need my assistance or whatever, don't be too afraid to say, hey, I haven't ever done this before. We need people who are authentic. Don't try and sugarcoat it and, come back behind, and then when we start asking the hard questions and you don't have answers for those things, then it makes you look some type of way. So just make sure you're being authentic, but also leading. Speaking specifically to the interview question, one of the things that our district does is what are called inbox activities. And so you have to, there's several different ones. So one may be related to discipline. One may be related to data. Another one may be related to responding to parent emails. The one I remember most fondly is they give you 10 different things that you have to organize and kind of set out what your day is going to look like and what you would respond to first. And one of those things in there is your principal asks you to do this, this, and this, and then your superintendent asks you to do this, this, and this. And so you have to kind of order those, and there's no right or wrong order. With the one exception, the superintendent comes first and your principal comes second. If you don't remember anything else, remember that. But then everything else is really how you communicate why you chose to put those things in that particular order. Speaking to data, the inbox activity that we had to do, we had to look at a school's report and figure out what the deficiencies were, 3 areas we would focus on. What are 3 strengths for the school? And then what would your plan be if you were the new leader on this campus? And how would you push that vision and mission forward? So your vision is your overall arching, this is my ideal world. This is what I want my school to look like. And then your mission is how you're going to carry those things out. And so knowing your why, why you got into education, why you're in this role, and what you're passionate about, and being able to tie those things in, I think would absolutely help you in any interview situation.
All right, I keep getting comments like this. So this is so interesting. I love it. So they're loving your answer. So Marquise, I'm going to ask you to answer this one in the chat box. Okay. Lynette HH asked, can you share, Marquise specifically, can you share your structure for walkthroughs? I'm going to ask you to answer that one in the chat box. And It's a specific one. And then
Okay.
we'll move on to one that was asked, and then somebody else was like, yes, that's a great question. So, and I just went ahead and stopped sharing the screen because I was like, hey, we're not on that question anymore anyway. And the screen looked weird, so we just stopped sharing. Okay. So this is the scenario, kind of how would anyone want to jump in. As a current coach / dean of students who has been more on the discipline side for 13 years, how can I improve my instructional side of education to be familiar to move into an admin role? And what are some of the strategies? Oh, we already talked about that, to get promoted. And someone said, great question. So many times as a coach, we're used as an extension of the AP position and not utilizing instructional practices. So how would you guys deal with that?
I can tell you how I help someone, and you're absolutely right. You get boxed in. So for me, my strong point is instruction, and because of that, I don't do a lot of the discipline. So as a coach, I'm going to just give you an example. Coaches are sometimes used as deans of students to help with the discipline with the students, but it's that piece, that instructional piece, that's missing. My suggestion for you is what I did. If you have a peer their strength is one thing and yours is something else, you have to basically help each other. So I learned discipline from someone who had a strength in discipline. And so I learned how to do a process. I learned how to expel. This may be funny, but I can roll a vehicle like nobody's business. Okay. So I learned to do all of those things. I learned to work with parents. I learned to negotiate and working with parents and students. So I had to learn that piece. And in return, I showed my coworker the instructional piece. So when I would go into a classroom and I would do an observation and do a walkthrough, he came with me. If I did a professional development piece for the staff, he worked on it with me. So you have to have that communication. You have to be able to ask each other questions and be honest with that thought at the same time. So, I mean, that's just my advice, is to basically work with someone with another strength in order to build your own. So.
Okay. So next question is kind of what we had on our question number 5. But I'm not going to put up the slideshow again. I'm just going to kind of ask it. And it's about dealing with you being an administrator during this distance learning time. So kind of putting a couple of questions together. We know that you're getting directives from your superintendent and things are being passed down to you. What is the most important for you as an administrator during this distance learning time? Hold on, I'm trying to get to the second one. It kind of asks about the same thing, just how are you dealing with being an administrator during distance learning? Oh, how can I support my staff in transitioning to distance learning? So just how are you guys dealing with getting directives during distance learning, and how are you supporting your staff? Oh.
Okay, sorry everyone about my dog who is barking. The Amazon guy came, so sorry. So this is a really great question, because this is exactly what we're experiencing right now. Many of our school districts had to end fourth quarter or the last portion of our school year and cut it short and go into a remote learning type of environment, asking teachers to do things in a different way that they had never been, real prepared for, and asking families to buy into these beliefs and ideals as we're still trying to get the best instruction for our students in our community. As a summer school principal, we had a plan in place to be on site for the entire summer here in Nebraska in Millard Public Schools. So building up our staffing and our curriculum and how we'll do business, that was an ongoing process from January till the current moment. When the coronavirus has kind of influenced what we're going to do and how we do business moving forward, going into a remote learning environment, it was really important for our district to communicate to families, from superintendents to us as principals, that we are here for you. And everyone might be experiencing different levels of crisis or trauma during this time, and we are a support system. We are not trying to make anyone's lives more difficult, but the school as a community hub is here to give out resources and meals and connect families to internet, just those day-to-day things that sometimes as administrators, as teachers, as mothers, that we might take for granted. So just first realizing what families need and meeting those needs first, and then going into the academic portion of that. Something that I've done personally going into this remote learning environment with my staff is, I'm going to leverage a book, so I hope that's okay, Stay Positive by John Gordon. So I have created a professional development series around this text, just to, again, feed the souls of my teachers to meet their needs in that way, as they are serving our students in our community, and doing the best that they can given our circumstances.
Yeah. I mean, I say amen to everything that Sarah said. We're in a people business, first and foremost. And we have to make sure during this time, nobody prepared any of us to be virtual principals and virtual administrators. My thing was, I kicked it into gear about taking care of our people, taking care of our students and the basic needs. I'm not saying that education isn't important, but if when it comes to food versus school, people are going to choose food. When it comes to everybody's well-being and health, people are going to choose health, and making sure that my students were safe, my parents were in good positions, reaching out to them and making sure that they had the essentials that they need. And I'm proud of Dallas ISD because I think we've been doing a really good job of serving our community in that regards. And so I'm taking care of my staff, making sure that they're taking care of themselves, self-care tips every day, about making sure that because we're bringing our jobs into our homes now, where there is no more separation. And so we need to, make sure that we're keeping that, trying to keep that balance and keeping ourselves healthy, with all the maybe bad food choices we're eating and not being able to work out as much. So having challenges like that with the staff and taking care of those other needs. And of course, keeping things as normal as we possibly could as far as reaching out with each other, POCs virtually and all those things, just to see each other's faces and being able to talk with each other about what's going on and getting into that instructional side. This is, the platform of virtual learning is, I know it can be beneficial, but I don't think it's a replacement for what we were doing on a regular everyday basis. So we just have to ride the wave out until, the new normal or whatever comes up. So just taking care of our people. That's my main thing right now.
I think to echo the sentiments of Sarah and Clement, one of the things that we were doing in the beginning to make sure that our students who we know are very dependent on us for life, making those students, allowing them to still be able to do that. Like one student that when all of this started, we had a leadership meeting during spring break, and 3 or 4 of us at the same time said, hey, what about this student who we know comes to school for breakfast and lunch. And at times will go to his teachers to take home food to his siblings. And so we made sure that our district was, we were communicating with our district that we needed to provide not just a lunch, but like a big lunch, not just a like crackers and fruit kind of thing. Like they needed a real lunch. And so we were able to do that at the very outset. And then once those needs were taken care of, then we started to focus on, okay, how can we do instruction during a digital age? And one of the things that came up was the technology piece, and how can we make sure that every student in our district has a device. And so fortunate for Garland, Garland was already in a really good place because we had been a one-to-one district for our high school since 2015-16 school year. And then we switched to Chromebooks 2 years ago. And so, but when we switched to Chromebooks, instead of the district paying for the device, the students had to pay for the device. And so across the district, we may have gotten maybe 60% of our students to opt into that. And so what about that other 40%? And so our district took every extra device that was in every building, and we distributed those to our students from kinder all the way through 12th grade. And so we wanted to make sure that we were being equitable in our distribution of our resources. So we sent out surveys and got in contact with people. And then we still had students who, one, didn't have internet like we mentioned. So we partnered with some internet service providers in the area. And then one of the things that we learned in partnering with them is, what if they stay in an apartment or they're renting a house and whoever they pay rent to or they're leasing from doesn't allow them to make that connection with the internet company. So what does that mean for our students? That means they don't have internet access. And so how are we going to meet the needs of those types of students? And so our district set out a plan to give Wi-Fi devices to those particular students at no cost. And so, you know, it took definitely a team effort from superintendent to the board to principals, assistant principals, a lot of meetings, conversations back and forth. And thankfully, we're able to be in a very, very good place now.
Okay, guys, so what we're going to do right now is I'm going to ask the final question. Please take a look at the chat because our panel have been also answering questions in the chat. So definitely take a look. We had a question about getting a doctorate in educational leadership. We've had a couple other questions that have been being answered. So definitely take a look at the chat, and thank you to the panel for jumping in and answering those questions in the chat. I appreciate it. And again, I'm going to put up their contact information again, so you can email them. They're giving you their email address for a reason, so you can email them and, you know, ask some of these questions. But the final question, so we can, you know, I like to be very aware of your time and end right at noon. But the final question, I just want kind of a one sentence answer from each of you, if you don't mind. And that is, what is that advice that you give to a future admin or a future leader? Like 1 or 2 sentences. If you had to put it on a bumper sticker, what is that advice that you would give to a future admin, first year admin, future leader? I know we're thinking, everybody's looking up at the sky thinking. 1 or 2 sentences. What is that final advice? And then we're going to start wrapping this up.
I would say be flexible and be respectful. I have to add a little more. Be flexible in your scheduling. Be respectful of your teachers, that they are experts in their field, respectful of your students, that their opinions matter, and respectful of your parents, that They are stakeholders in their child's education and in the school itself.
Beautiful.
I would say don't be afraid to ask for help. And also, it's super important that you separate your personal life and your work life. Otherwise, it will consume you. So you've got to know when you leave, it's okay not to answer those emails or those Facebook messages that parents are sending you and things like that. So, I mean, you definitely have to know when to shut it off and focus on yourself and your family, because otherwise it really will consume you.
Thank you.
I would say to live your core values, live your mission as you're advocating for all of your families, students, teachers, and the community in which you serve.
I would say to treat everyone, and I do mean everyone, students, staff, parents, with dignity and respect, no matter what their station is in life.
There's so much I want to say. We're asked to keep it short. So know your why. Like, why do you want to get into this role? Learn, take your every opportunity you can to learn as much as you can. Lead. Every opportunity that you can take on a leadership role, take something off of the plate of your assistant principal or principal, do that. And then lastly, grow. Remember, it's all about growth and growth of yourself, both mentally, spiritually, physically, emotionally, but also growth in the areas that you are specialized in.
All right, guys. Now, I warned you that this was going to be an amazing panel. Some of y'all didn't believe me. I know. But I told you this is going to be amazing, and we had questions we couldn't even get to. So I have put up the administrative panel, their email addresses. Take a picture of this. I wouldn't say write it down, so you may want more than one, but go ahead and take a picture of this because we are about to wrap up. I have been posting the signing and the evaluation in the chat box, guys. Please leave an evaluation. They have all done this voluntarily, gave up their time to come and talk and help others. So please, the only thing we ask is that you give them some feedback and you fill out that evaluation. So if I need to put this screen back up, I will a little bit later, but I want to go ahead and put the evaluation up as well. If you want to do the evaluation on your phone, you see that you have the QR code, so you can just open up your camera and do that on the QR code. Or you can go to the link at alex.net/eval. Guys, we're going to go ahead and wrap this up. I cannot thank these 5 panelists enough. Like, thank you so much. Give them some love in the chat. Fill out that evaluation. Like, thank you. And then to being an administrator, to be a leader and give up this time voluntarily. I know that you have 1,001 things to do, not just for your job, but for your family. Thank you so much. And I think they would have sat here, guys. I think they would have sat here for 5 hours and done this. So thank you so much, guys. We all appreciate it. Give them some love in the chat for volunteering this time for us. And that is it for us. So this is the evaluation. I'm going to go ahead and stop this right quick. And stop sharing. So thank you guys so much. If you did have that question that was not answered, hit them up on email. But we didn't talk about work-life balance, which is one of the things I wanted to talk about. So don't expect an email today. They have other things to do. But do send them an email. They'll respond to you when they can, of course. So thank you guys so much for coming. We are done. This is the sign-in and the evaluation. I'm gonna keep, thank you. I'm gonna keep putting this in the chat. So thank you guys so much. And if you notice, I'm Dr. Desiree Alexander, and if you notice a name resemblance, Clement Alexander is my big brother. So I thank him for coming, and I thank Marquis for coming, and I thank Anna for coming, and I thank Sarah for coming, and I thank Anitra, one of my good friends for years, for coming. So thank you guys so much. Y'all enjoy your weekend. You can go ahead and log off when you're done. If you need help signing in, you know that I sit here for 5 years and help people get signed in and all that good stuff. The video and your certificate will be coming to you today. What time today? I don't know. Sometime today. If you don't get it by tomorrow morning, like normal, go ahead and shoot me an email. You do not get a certificate unless you sign in. We know the routine. So if you're like, how do I sign in? You're gonna sit for a second and I'm gonna help you in a second. I do agree that a part 2 is needed. We may have to go ahead and schedule a part 2. I agree with that. Okay, there's the dog. We love him, Sarah. He's part of the family now.
Yes.
We love him.
Yes, we love dogs. Yes.
Don't even apologize. He's part of the family.
It's all good.
All right. I'm surprised no kids came up and said, hey, we're at home. We're working at home. We take any and everything. All right. So I'm going to stop the recording, guys. Thank you so much. You can log off when you are ready. And I'm going to stay on and help you get signed in. Y'all have a great day.
Thank you, everybody.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
Bye-bye, everybody.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.